All right. Greetings, peeps. I am Lisa Parker, the stop stopping specialist for ambitious people. Got a great topic for you today. I'm really excited about this. If you are anything like me, you probably have an abundance of ideas, but what happens to the wreckage of good ideas that don't get followed up on, don't get finished on? That's what we're going to discuss today. All right. So, if you're anything like me, and you probably are if you're sticking around this space at all, you probably are not a person that struggles with a lack of ideas, a lack of inspiration. For me, myself, what little I know about human design, I'm a generator. For astrology, I'm a Gemini, and I have ADHD. And so I can come up with new ideas and new wild hairs to follow pretty easily. Like, that has never been a problem for me. In fact, one of my requirements for any kind of significant other is that no matter how harebrained my ideas are, you have to pretend along with me that they are the best thing since sliced bread for 48 hours. And then after kind of the initial rush wears off, then I can determine, whether this is an idea worth following up on. But here's the thing. When every quarter I have a new dream, when every birthday I have a new life's mission, when every week sometimes it feels like I have a new goal, there does end up being that wreckage of plans and goals and ideas and thoughts that I didn't complete. And when I go and look back at them, sometimes it can feel intimidating. Sometimes I can feel quite ashamed of, oh my gosh, like, what is happening? Why am I not following through? And so that is a big thing that I had to learn for myself, that I also help coach my clients with. What happens when you have this abundance of ideas? What happens when you start calling yourself a bad finisher? When you can start strong, but you're calling yourself a never finisher. Okay? So that's what I want us to dig into today. Because very often, big dreams do not always necessarily result in big action. And you know that it does take big action very often to get things over the finish line, to get over kind of the humps in the middle, to be able to have that glory of, I finished this thing. This is so amazing. Yes. And so I want to help us all kind of recontextualize that so that we can stop beating ourselves up for the unfinished hobby projects, the unfinished job projects that we may have stuffed into a closet, physical closet or a closet in our minds, and figure out a better way to go forward so that we can know ourselves and be known as the person who finishes what we start. Okay? So think about this. One thing, what if it's possible that you didn't fail? What if the finish of that project, of that idea, of that goal just looked different than what you thought it was initially going to look like? What if you thought in your mind that finishing equaled, I was going to take this class and get this certificate that is going to help me in my career? But then partway through, you realize this isn't actually for me. Like, whatever this is going to lead to is not actually lining up with the other goals, the missions, my other values for my life. So then if you stop the course, you're not someone who didn't finish. You finished that chapter of your book appropriately, in line with all of your other values. Because sometimes a finish is, I'm going to stop doing this thing because it no longer serves me, it's no longer appropriate, it doesn't line up with my values, I've changed my mind, the world has changed around me. Maybe that's the finish point. And that is something that we can embrace. The finish doesn't always look like getting an award, getting an accolade, getting a completion certificate, getting people standing around clapping for what you did. Finish doesn't always mean that. Sometimes finish means that I am shelving this because it no longer applies. Sometimes the finish can be a finish for now. It's a pause because life has changed, ideals have changed, the world has changed, something has changed, or your perception of it has changed. And you're like, this doesn't actually match up with the person that I thought I was called to be, with the vision that I actually have for my life. So let me shelve this, and maybe I'll go back to it later. That could be another kind of finish. It can be a temporary finish that you're going to look at and renegotiate and think about later. That can be another form of finishing. And so, especially as you're trying to contextualize and as you are redefining yourself as someone who finishes what you start, think about this. The thing that you started, the activity, the goal, the hobby, the dream, the business, the the marketing plan, the social calendar exercises that you're engaging in, ask yourself this: was that goal born under duress? Were you really stressed out? Were you trying to make the best of a bad situation? Were you using incredibly limited resources in a stressful time to figure out your next step forward? Because when that stressful time passes, or when you have more context, when you're able to take a breath and slow your heart rate down and kind of look at things, your world may open up. And while at the time you may have made the best of an assortment of not great choices, when you can take a breath and slow things down and kind of look at the field of vision a bit more, you may be able to say, okay, still don't have spectacular choices, but I might have more than I thought I did before. So again, one, look at what you started, look at your choices. Did you make that start under duress? Okay. A second thing to consider, again, has the situation changed? Have you changed? Have your values changed? Did you start this dream when you were single and had no children? And as it's gone on, now you have a partner and you have 5 kids. Has your situation changed? Have the things that are pulling on your time, your energy, your talent, your mental resources, have those things changed? And if those things have changed, that might mean that you need to change your definition of finish. Another thing, a big thing, is this still actually your dream? Is getting this goal, is making these forward strides in this particular direction, is this still the path you want to be on? That's something to investigate a lot. They often talk about making sure that as you're climbing a ladder, make sure you have the ladder leaning against the right wall. I fully admit, especially in my 20s, when kind of making those decisions about where am I going to live, where am I going to go to school, what am I going to study, who are my friends going to be, what classes am I going to take, kind of all those really important decisions, which honestly seem to happen about every decade, don't they, or so? Figuring out, oh, hey, my ladder actually isn't leaning up against the correct wall. Let me change this. This is from someone who started at University of South Carolina as an undecided, then was an English major for a hot second, and then became a business major. And probably, if I had it to do again, I probably would do something a little bit different, but, whatever. It all worked out. But always keep checking to see, is your ladder actually leaning up against the correct wall, or do you need to move your ladder over? Okay. And I also want to encourage all of us to embrace the multiverse you. Embrace the multiverse you. So a couple years ago, that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, I love that movie. I love the idea of multiverses because it taps, I think they're great visualizations of this idea that there are different versions of you that are playing out all simultaneously. And especially in Everything Everywhere All at Once, when Evelyn was able to tap into versions of her from other universes to be able to get out of the various sticky situations that she was in the movie. I don't think that's a huge spoiler. If it is, that movie's been out for like 6 years. But anyway, there is a version of you existing already that already sees themselves as someone who finishes what they start. So that person is not a fantasy. That person is you who's more clear on their identity. And so reach out into the multiverse and pull in that person's definition of themselves into you now. Because again, your finish might look different than the way you thought the finish was going to look when you start, but you still are a finisher. And you do yourself no good when you keep characterizing yourself as, I don't finish what I start. I start strong and then I lose steam. I can't trust myself to see things through to the end. If you keep giving yourselves those mental tapes and describing yourself that way, then number one, you are denying the reality that you are a finisher. You do finish things, even if the finish looks different than what you're expecting. And it makes it less likely that you're going to jump into something new, even if it is going towards your dream, even if it is appropriate and lines up with your values and your goals and your desires and what you feel called to do. If you keep calling yourself like, I'm a non-finisher, then you're less likely to jump into something because you already are assuming at the outset that you're not going to finish, So pull in that version of multiverse you that knows that they're a finisher and embrace that reality right here, right now. You are a finisher and you get to decide what finishing means. You get to contextualize and think about what it means to finish something. All right. Also remember that as you are chasing your goals and as you're making, different aspects of your life, making different things happen, massive action can sometimes lead to burnout. Okay. And that can be a reason why why you're feeling like you're not finishing things, because you're jumping into something and you don't have the mental, emotional, financial, physical resources, and you're pushing so incredibly hard on this amazing task, but you're not doing it with intention. You're not doing it with, you're not giving yourself enough grace. So that all you're doing is pushing yourself through massive action into a round of burnout, which just feels really crappy. And then can be another way that you feel like that you are denying your call, denying your vision, and you're not actually finishing things. So something that can help a lot with that, has helped me a lot over the years, especially with the aforementioned ADHD, is that make yourself a plan for a good day and make yourself a plan for a bad day. So for example, in my business, I have certain metrics as to the amount of output, like the number of videos I want to make, the number of posts I want to make, the number of people I want to reach out to, the number of calls I want to schedule, the number of emails I want to send, kind of all these things. And I have a good day level and I have a bad day level. Because here's the thing, especially as I'm trying to help all of us stop stopping and build momentum and keep creating momentum and keep living out momentum, very often we look at our tasks, our goals, the things that we need to do as a yes, no, all or nothing. And if you do nothing, the more days, the more times you put together of nothing, the less momentum you're cultivating, the more likely you are to end up just stopping. And so that's why if you have a good day protocol and a bad day protocol, then you can still keep your momentum. You can still have kind of the, the minimum viable project, the MVP, the minimum viable output, as to this will help me keep momentum so I'm not taking myself completely out of the game. All right. So think about adding that to your arsenal, your good day protocols and your bad day protocols. So at least you're keeping momentum. You're putting out minimum viable output. Okay. Also, it helps a lot if you can lean into something called automaticity. I think I'm saying that right. But the more things that you can make automatic, the fewer decisions you have to make about it, so that then you're not burning your willpower on all these little tiny decisions. For example, previous jobs I've had, sometimes I would have to repeat to myself in the car driving to the job, don't get fired, don't get fired, don't get fired, don't get fired. And there were a ton of little decisions involved in don't get fired. It was, don't yell at a customer. Don't yell at someone else in the org chart. Don't roll my eyes at someone in the org chart. Don't be disrespectful. Don't go out of the building at lunch and not come back. Don't go out of the building at my break and not come back. And each of those are individual decisions. But then, as I got a better idea as to all of these things are in my idea of don't get fired today, Lisa, then I can just turn the automaticity of don't get fired, turn that on. Okay, that's a little bit grim, but it gets it across. But here's a better idea. If you have a family that you care for, or family members that you care for, you probably have an idea in your head as to, especially if, say, you're in charge of cooking meals for folks, you probably have really great ambitions as to the types of really healthy, fresh vegetables, amazing produce, beautifully laid out meals with, the good china and the candlesticks. You have these really awesome ideas as to what you're going to do. But you realize that for the sake of your own sanity, as you're trying to get meals on the table and be consistent, you need to make as much of that automatic as possible. So if you can make if you have kind of a set number of dinners that you make every week, like you may have 5 dinners that you rotate through, then when you're making your shopping lists, it makes it easier because you're mainly only shopping for whatever you're missing for those 5 meals. The people that are eating generally kind of know what to expect. Like once you refine down those 5 meals, then the people you're feeding hopefully have a pretty good idea as to whether they're going to be satisfied with dinners or not. You have a pretty good idea as to how long it's going to take. All of these things can add into automaticity, can make it so that you're not having to use as much conscious brain power and bandwidth to make things happen. So the more things you can make automatic, which again goes back to having the plan for a good day and a plan for a bad day. If you have dinner plans that you can make and you can get to the table that involve a minimum amount of effort when things are going bonkers, then you still have done that automatic task of getting dinner on the table, and you haven't had to use bandwidth, especially on what might be a bad day, a busy day, a hectic day, a crazy day. Automaticity can kick in and you still have done the basic task of gotten a meal on the table. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So add some automaticity to your life wherever you can. Okay, so as I want to kind of wrap this up, a couple of things. Number one, as a journaling prompt, I want you to ask yourself this question, and I like kind of these journaling prompts and these ways of thinking about things because it's assuming that it's already true. So as a journaling prompt for you today, think about answering this question. Why am I so good at finishing everything I start? Why am I so good at finishing everything I start? Okay, so think about that and journal on that or make a blog on it, however you want to kind of note that down. Also, kind of as you are working on changing your self-definition and living into the reality that you are someone who finishes what they start, I want to give you kind of something in your body to help calm you down, because I know, especially for myself, when I am kind of looking at the quarter and thinking about the projects that carried over from the previous quarter that I haven't completed yet, but I'm in the process of finishing, sometimes I get a little panicky and think, oh God, oh my gosh, so much is piling up and so many things to do and so many places to be, and I need 48 hours at every day and I need to not sleep to get stuff done, and you start kind of spiraling. So I want to give you kind of a really quick tool to kind of de-spiral, kind of be able to get your brain out of panic mode so that you can open up and you can be more creative and think about why you are so good at finishing everything you start. So a little bit of breath work, just some simple box breathing to kind of help you bring yourself back into your body, kind of cut down on the panic, kind of open up a little more bandwidth in your head. So with box breathing, I like this because it's very simple, but it's basically breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4. So let's do that really quick together, just real fast. Okay, so breathe in for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4, and breathe out 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. All right, and just do that repeatedly to whatever rhythm works for you. Again, breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. Just a simple breathwork exercise to help bring you back into your body, bring you out of all the spinning plates in your head, so that again, you can reflect on why you are so good at finishing everything you start. Okay, so we've covered a lot. And if you found anything helpful, please share it in the comments wherever around wherever you found this video posted. Feel free to send me a message or send me an email to let me know kind of what you discovered about what you found helpful about defining yourself as someone who finishes what you start. Excuse me. Also, I am a coach. I have a few limited spots for one-on-one coaching. If you're interested, there should be a link also in the description somewhere, so that you can apply for a one-on-one coaching spot, see if we'd be a good fit. And a little thought to keep with yourself as we close out. Remember, I finish what I start. The finish may look different than what I originally thought, but I always finish what I start. And remember, you are already awesome. Now's the time to live it out. Have a great day, y'all. Bye for now.